In 1830, a revolution in Paris led Charles X to abdicate. The new king, Louis Philippe, was a more liberal figure than his predecessor. Indeed, he was known as the citizen king. Hence, Italian liberals became excited by the possibility the new French government would support revolutions in Italy. Disturbances broke out again, this time in Modena, Parma, and the Papal States. In most of these places, the aim was a moderate one, to persuade the local ruler to grant a constitution. In Modena, the revolt was led by Enrico Maisli, the student son of a university professor. He trusted his own ruler, Duke Francis IV of Modena, to whom he revealed his plans for a united Italy, but his trust was betrayed. He was arrested in February 1831, 2 days before the uprising was due to begin. Maisli's arrest encouraged Duke Francis to believe that the danger was over, and he went to Vienna to negotiate for Austrian help, should it be needed on some future occasion. Yet while he was away, revolutionaries took over the city of Modena and set up a provincial government. This encouraged students in neighboring Parma to organize riots and to demand a constitution from their ruler, the Duchess Marie-Louise. She fled in terror, and a provincial government was established by students. Contact with revolutionaries in Modena was at once made, and a joint army commander appointed. Yet the revolutionaries had little time to organize, for within a month Duke Francis had returned to Modena at the head of an Austrian army and quickly defeated the revolutionaries. Savage reprisals were taken, and anyone suspected of supporting the rebels was imprisoned, exiled, or executed. Even the wearing of a mustache or beard, supposedly signs of radicalism, could lead one to be arrested as a revolutionary. Parma was also occupied by Austrian forces, and Marie-Louise returned. Similar uprisings took place in the Papal States, organized this time by the professional classes who resented the oppressive rule of the church authorities. The papal government put up little resistance, and a provincial government known as the Government of the Italian Provinces was formed in Bologna in February 1831. It did not last long. Once more, the power of the Austrian army proved decisive. Metternich's troops moved into the Papal States and defeated the rebels. Minor uprisings continued during 1831 and 1832, but they were fiercely suppressed by the violent and undisciplined Austrian troops. So the revolutions of 1831 and 1832 failed for very similar reasons as the one in 1820-21. These revolutions took place in Modena, Parma, and the Papal States, and the reason for the failures were four of them, and they all seemed to be the same. The strength of Austria. Revolutions were local and separate. They didn't rely on the mass peasant, population for support, which meant 90% of people were left out, and they had no outside help, no foreign country to step in and help offset the size of the Austrian military. Why did the revolutions fail in 1820 and 21, and then again in 1831 and 32? The revolutions of 1820 and 1831 achieved very little. In Piedmont, Naples, and the Papal States, reactionary governments strengthened their hold with the help of Austria by using military force. The same thing will happen in Modena, Parma, and then again in the Papal States in 1830. Where revolutions were successful in ousting their rulers, the success was only temporary and due more to the failure of the governments to take effective action, to the rulers' habit of running away, and to their lack of military resources than to the strength of the revolutionaries. Remembering what happened in the French Revolution at the end of the 18th century, many rulers expected to be defeated. This gave the revolutionaries an early advantage, but one that they quickly lost through their failure to take united action. The revolutions were weakened by being local affairs concerned with only limited areas. There was little communication between the revolutionaries in the different states and even less cooperation. The revolutionary government in Bologna refused to send help to Medina, for instance. Elsewhere, revolutions were not coordinated. They relied heavily on a network of small groups of revolutionaries set up by the Carbonari and other secret societies. But these were isolated units and their aims differed from place to place. Most revolutionaries were surprisingly moderate in their demands and not given to violence. Usually all they were trying to achieve was the granting of a constitution to allow the people some part in government. The revolutionary movements were mainly middle class, except in Sicily where peasants were involved. Elsewhere, popular interest and support were not encouraged by the revolutionary leaders, who feared that allowing the mass of poorly educated people to join in the revolutions would lead eventually to rule by the mob. Not surprisingly, therefore, ordinary people often welcomed back their former rulers with open arms because middle-class revolutionaries did not want their involvement in politics. In short, the revolutions had failed because the revolutionaries were divided among themselves and lacked mass support, and because they lacked outside help. It was hoped in 1831 that the French might provide military support, but when this was not forthcoming, the Austrian army had an easy time of it. By 1831, Italy still was merely a geographical expression. Unification was not even on the agenda. But what of the future? Would the unsuccessful revolutions of 1820 and 1830 and the martyrs it had created inspire greater efforts? Could revolutionaries achieve greater unity and greater support? Would the international situation become more favorable? These were the questions that were asked after 1831.